Okay, so what I've got here is I'm using the Mixed Boxes stamp. So that is this stamp here. And I'm just going to stamp it up just with the Archival Jet Black. And I'm just using the Archival Jet Black because it's an oil-based permanent ink. It'll just stay nicely. It won't bleed when I put some stuff over the top. Okay, so we've got our stamped image. And next we want to use our stencil. Just grab my craft mat. I'll just put this under here. Now this is a non-stick craft sheet. If you've not seen this before, it's a non-stick craft sheet. It's just a nice smooth surface to work on. There's a lot of properties to it, but the quick answer is nice and smooth, so when I do my blending, it'll be a lot easier than just working directly onto my table. And I've just put a bit of washi tape down just to keep it, just to keep the base card in place. And now what you can see here is you can see exactly where I've stamped through the stencil, and you can line up the stencil to cover those little boxes. And I'm just going to use some washi tape here just to keep this stencil in place. Okay, so that's all in place now, so that's ready now for me to sponge with. Now I'm going to use some Distress inks and a little blending tool. Now I use these, the little foams, I just keep them in the base of the ink. Now you can see when I'm sponging here, it's going from one box into the other, and that's what I mean about getting that graduation of colour. Because if you used a post-it note, you would probably have like all of them in one section, and then you wouldn't get that shadowing effect going on to the next box. And that's where the beauty of the stencil comes into play, because you can just give a little bit of a hint going into those other boxes. Okay, so there's just my first colour. Put that back in its little tin. Grab another colour with its foam, and then just going over here with a different colour there, just to give you that other blended colour. So I'm going here, what am I using? Tumbled Glass and Shaded Lilac. So I'm deliberately using some light colours because I know I want to stamp over the top. Obviously, if you don't want to stamp over the top, you could use, some of the darker colours or, anything. But, I mean, the beauty about Distress inks, gosh, there's so many of them that there's that many colour combinations. You could be just here all day doing beautiful backgrounds just like that. Okay, so there's my second colour. Put that guy back in there. So I'm just going to carefully, because I want to stamp a bit over the top of this, but I just want to peel this back because I want to show you what it looks like. So that there is what it looks like after you've stamped it and sponged it. I'll give you guys a bit of a closer look. So you can see there how nothing's gone out of the squares or the little boxes. And it just makes it easy. If I had to use post-it notes for all of that, it would have taken me a lot longer, and then I couldn't have got that nice little graduation of colour. So I just think it's a really cool thing to do. And obviously with the stencil, if it was by itself, this is how, where's that other sample I had before? This one's using the 12 up. So you don't necessarily need to always use it with the frame stamp either. You can simply just sponge through it just like that and then stamp over the top and use that as a background. But it just gives you a lot of options. So if you wanted to stamp through it, just put this back up here again. Now the thing with the stencil is it's a little bit thicker obviously than a piece of paper, so when you are stamping you need to make sure that you've got good enough pressure, because some of these little ridges, sometimes the stamp going up to that ridge may just leave a little tiny gap. So it works, this technique works really well with small stamps, like you can see here on this baby one here, because all the stamps are quite small, everything just works really well. And this is a butterfly one here, so I'll just stamp a little bit like that to show you how you can do that. So I'm using, this is the Wing stamp set. This is one of our older stamps, but it's still always a goodie. Simply press down, and you can see there that the stencil has masked the butterfly, and if you just lift that back, you can see how the butterfly then only stays within its box. If you did want to do a larger thing where you knew it was going to go over into the other box. Sometimes you want to, sometimes you don't. That's when you'd get your Post-it notes, and then you'd even mask it over the stencil if you wanted to. So this is just, I mean, I probably don't need to do it for this second butterfly, but if just say I wanted to go down that way, but I didn't want it to go into the other box down there, then that's what you'd do. And then you've got that masked, and then your butterfly's within the frame. So you can just continue on to create that whole card, and you would end up with something like that. Well, the beauty of that, here's another thing, the mixed boxes and all of the frame stamps, I've used it where the smaller box is on the left, this one the smaller box is on the right. You can also use it in landscape way and stamp like flowers and other things up that way. There's so many different options in how you can use them, and the same with the 3-up. You can stamp things, you know, landscape, or like here, how I've done here, you can stamp flowers in a portrait way. So there's tons of ideas and options. There's another butterfly one. This seaside one was really cool. See how I've done the seahorse, and I didn't mask it with the Post-it notes in between the boxes. I just simply stamped it straight onto there. And then it just goes down, same with the reeds, but then after that I left all the fishes and stamped them into their little individual boxes.